Welcome back to the Alone Together podcast where the loners aren't alone. I'm Journey.
And I'm Layla.
And today we have a special guest, Mr. Miles. I'm so excited. Oh, here we go. I'm so excited to have him on because May is Mental Health Month. And we just have been wanting to get some men on here to talk about men's mental health, specifically Black male mental health, because it just needs to be talked about. And I feel like there's a lot of resources out there for them that just aren't known. And the stigma is there, the space is there, but men be afraid to talk. And we want to change that and give y'all the space. So, how about you tell us a little bit, school, major, where you're from, and yeah.
All right. Like you said, I'm Miles. I'm originally from down south, from Little Rock, Arkansas. And we go to school together. I go to SC and I study business. And I'm actually going to be continuing my SC career as a master's student and studying entrepreneurship. So, Black men in higher education. Right? But I started with the NAACP at SC. This is our inaugural year back at SC as the community outreach advisor. So what that basically means is I am in charge of just all the community outreach stuff and just getting us engaged both within the USC Black community and also the greater LA community. So
that's lit.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that they have a chapter. I was actually involved in NAACP back home. They had like a kids chapter, but I only was in it for like 2 years. But I'm glad to see that they're having this.
Yeah.
So what got you like wanting to do a Black men? Oh, preface. Miles is hosting a Black men mental health talk at school through NAACP, and I just thought he'd be great to have on here because he's hosting that space. He's doing what we all want to do for y'all. So what got you like into that and wanting to do that?
Yeah. So for me, it was growing up, I always thought about going to therapy. My parents, especially in high school, my parents separated. And there was just a lot of residual trauma that I experienced from that.
Yeah.
And specifically last year, I went through, just had a really, really hard time. And that provided like a catalyst for me to, start therapy. And actually 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my first year of consistently doing therapy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
But with that, I also want to acknowledge that it's just like, therapy is so inaccessible for just like Black men and Black women, and just, Black people in general. And it's so important to like create space where that, that trauma and just honestly, just those emotions can be like thought through and spoken about. And especially for Black men, it's so difficult to open space for that because there's so much stigma around, speaking about emotion. I was doing research and, in preparation for this event next Monday. And, it's like there's research that shows how, seeking out mental therapy, the quote from, I think it was like the National Medical Library was like talking about how research shows that as a Black space, especially older Black people, like our parents, our grandparents, see seeking out mental health as a consequence of personal weakness. And I believe that's like the verbatim quote. And that just like kind of broke my heart. I was like, wow, imagine like someone going through something that I've gone through, or something worse. I consider what I went through very mild, and it put me in like such an incredibly hard position. And them not having either the resources or the people or the space to be able to like think and speak on those things very candidly. So that's like one of the things I wanted to bring to SC, because there's so many of my Black male friends that have experienced struggle in the same way I have, and just don't feel that they're capable of saying it because of whatever stigmas they have or whatever stigmas other people perpetuate onto them. So that's one of the things that I'm doing on Monday. So I'm super stoked.
Period. I'm excited for you to do that, because even when we were talking about it in the Black Student Center, when we were saying it, the Black kid next to us was like, yeah, like my dad always said, don't cry. Like men never cry. And I was like, we all get told that. Like at least my dad would always tell me that. And it's just like, but why, bro? Like, we're supposed to cry. Like, if I feel like I need to cry, I'm gonna cry. Like,
yeah. It's honestly sad. Like, even my little brother, like, when my dog died recently, my mom was really sad. And he was like, why are you sad? Like, why are you grieving? He's like, did you not prepare for this moment? Like, I knew this was coming. Like, just hella heartless. And I'm like, dang, like, that's just how boys are, though. Like,
for real.
it's way different for men. But I think also, like, when it comes to mental health, like, the situations we're in as Black people adds to that. Like, being a Black man at USC, which is like a predominantly white and very wealthy school,
Yeah.
is definitely a hardship in itself. So can you talk a little bit like about that and just like how racism plays into it as well?
Yeah, especially growing up in the South, I was definitely exposed to a lot of just prejudice as just for being Black. And then on top of layering that as also being a man, it was really hard for me to, and I also grew up in, I went to private school in an entirely white community. So finding that kind of identity of Blackness in myself was really, really hard. And I think, especially coming to SC, I was like, how can I flip that script? You know what I mean? And like, how can I seek out both a community in Blackness and also a community in being a Black man on top of that? And, I've been through my, my freshman, everybody talks about like the curse of the freshman friend.
Yes, the freshman fallout.
I had that shit.
I had that. I had, went up until junior year, fallout, and it was just
they don't talk about that one,
right? Because it be happening.
Also, what they don't talk about is how unsafe these friendships are. Because in college, it's like we want to meet all these people and be like, oh, I want to know as many people as possible. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to have all these friends. But it's like, not all your friends were made for you.
Right. Period.
I know that's right.
Like, there's just people where it's like, I assumed would be in my life forever. That now I like, when I see you, I can't even look at you the same.
Yeah. And I think college gives you that fantasy. You're like, everyone just thinks like as soon as you show up to college, it's like, my freshman roommate, we're gonna be friends forever. You're gonna be at my wedding. But
it's like we're changing
then life
every year.
Literally like drastically.
Every year I'm a new person. But that's what it's supposed to be. Like, respectfully, if you're the same as when you were freshman year, like,
what have you done?
Literally, like, bro,
what's going on?
And honestly, like, that part about like growing through college too is like so important to think about, because it's like in those fallouts that I've had with friends where it's like I've contributed to the reason we fell out and they have also contributed to the reason that we fell out. I've grown from that. And I think the most recent fallout I had was kind of the catalyst into me going to therapy and trying to figure out how can I better myself so I can prevent these things from happening.
Right.
Period. And how can I at least prevent on my end these things from happening again and come into a space where I feel emotionally safe. And that's like kind of the entire impetus of my therapy experience is like, how do I find people that make me feel emotionally safe? So
I like that. I feel like everyone who goes to therapy has a different reason for going to therapy.
Definitely.
And it's like, I feel like people just look at it as like you're talking, but it's like, no, it's more like problem solving and like finding a solution and like growing as an individual. Right. Because I feel like when you talk to your friends, you're never going to get the answer as someone who like is on the outside looking in and like has no biases and can really give you like advice and has experience from different things and can pull from different things. And I don't know, I'm just hella advocate for therapy. I feel like everybody need to go to therapy. Everybody Black need to go to therapy. But how has your therapy experience been and how do you think it's helped you grow the most?
Yeah, for me it honestly is like one of my biggest like things I look forward to. Especially, I used to go every week, especially like towards the front of last year. And now I started going every other week just because I feel now I'm in a space where I can control how I feel and control the spaces that I'm in and control, the parts of myself that I let show to certain people. But ultimately, like, my therapy experience has been amazing. I think allowing myself to be vulnerable, and that's like the biggest thing. And for my Black men, if you are listening, like the biggest thing is letting yourself be vulnerable.
Facts.
And not like, I feel like one of the things we focus on is because we're being vulnerable, we're gonna like somebody's gonna judge us or take that vulnerability for weakness.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if they do, that's on them. You know,
Exactly.
it's like you did what you could.
Right.
You know, and it's like showing being able to show parts of yourself that you previously weren't able to show before, and holding yourself in a space that you're able to feel comfortable with how you feel and being able to communicate that openly and just be open about how you actually feel as a person. And I think that's one of the things, you know, a year into this, I felt I've been able to take away from the most is being very communicative about how I feel. Like on Valentine's Day this year, my grandmother passed away, and
sorry to hear that.
I think I appreciate it. And I, you know, was trying. It was really hard for me because you know, it was happening. It was from cancer, and seeing it just her deteriorate, and you know, seeing like that kind of like this person that I've always had, you know, somewhat disappear slowly, was really difficult. And I was just honest about it. You know, like I told my friends the day it happened, I was like, look, this just happened, and that's that. You know, but like I feel like a year ago I would have, you know, bottled it up as I did before and just let myself go through the motions and do that in the third. So I think just seeing like that progress and that growth was really, really important to see. And that's like one of the reasons why I want to open up this space for other Black men next week, to be able to just speak on things, speak on certain topics.
Yeah, I feel like people, especially Black men and men in general, really don't understand the power and vulnerability. Like, imagine what you are doing for the people around you, being able to speak up. I feel like people don't understand. Like a huge reason I've always said to people, like, just be who you are is because the people we look up to the most are the people who are just themselves for real. And like, we admire when people are able to share their truth for real. I feel like when things are the most captivating and resonates the most is when we're like, dang, they really like said their truth. They really were open. They were honest about their struggles. Like, I relate to that. I feel that. We never judge somebody. We like empathize naturally as humans. And I feel like people just need to realize, especially men, like when you have the courage to step up and be vulnerable, you are allowing everyone around you to do that. And that's like a very powerful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. I was just in New York and I went to this conference at Columbia. It's called the Beyond the Bars conference. But they had a healing room and it had like these talking cards with questions. And I was just chilling in there because it was a vibe. It had like incense and all types of stuff. And then like this guy walks up to me, he's trying to flirt with me heavy and like I'm not feeling it. But we're in the healing room. So then his other friend comes up and he's trying to flirt with another girl. And we all sit down at this table and we start like reading these cards. And one of the guys, they were telling us they're both from Chicago and they're formerly incarcerated. Now they're working as mentors. And we just started reading these questions and they were asking us just like about different things in our lives. And they started to open up. And one of the guys was like really vulnerable and you could tell like he needed to get it out, like he needed to talk. And after he was like, I'm just so appreciative for this space because I don't get to talk about stuff like this when I'm in Chicago. Like everything just moves so fast. And even another lady that was sitting at a different table came over and she was like crying, going through, and she's like, my son just stopped talking to me, but like hearing your perspective and your story and your truth like helped me heal. So I think like that was just a beautiful moment, but it also opened my eyes. Like so many guys like never get to have those conversations. And we were talking about that on our last episode, like with our friends as girls, I feel like we have those conversations a lot. So how do you feel in like friendships, especially for Black men, like things can change and like conversations like that can open?
Yeah, for me, for the most part, I've always had girlfriends growing up, and I think that's really, I think, in that has changed a lot about how I perceive, you know, having conversations like that where I am able to be very vulnerable. Because it's true, with a lot of my girlfriends, I'm able to have those very deep, intimate conversations about, you know, what am I struggling with? Like, I mean, real shit. Like, what am I, like, what's going on with me? What's going on with you? What's going on with us? What's going on with the people around us? And I feel like, you know, until this year, I never felt like I had like this space where I could do that with some of my male friends. And, you know, I have now like, next year when I'm doing, like when I'm back in school, I'm going to be living with 6 other guys that are like my best friends, you know, now. And so it's like, love all of them to death. And, you know, I've opened up to them in ways, you know, in a various amount of ways. And they've opened up to me in various amount of ways. And I think one of the biggest things that I've gained from that experience is allowing myself to be vulnerable with other men. You know what I mean? And allowing for that level of intimacy amongst my Black male friends.
Exactly.
And that's something that I always implore other men to do. I feel like even when I have conversations about it, like even in the CBCSA, I'll have conversations about mental health, and people share the same sentiments where it's like, yo, I don't even get to speak about this.
Yeah.
And I don't ever have space to actually speak about this. And so it's so important to me that it's being a vessel where you are able to speak about those things or receive those things as well. And I think in just creating more space to have more Black male friends in my life has been super eye-opening in that regard, just to have a space and a vessel for, allow them to be, allow myself to be a space and a vessel for them to unpack whatever's going on and get real talk, no bullshit ass advice. You know what I mean? That's the thing too. It's and one of the things I really want to focus on with this thing next week is accountability. And that's there's 4 topics.
Right. Straight to the snaps.
The fourth topic is accountability, and it's, how do we contribute to our own suffering? How do we contribute to, how can we hold ourselves accountable? How can we hold our friends accountable? How can we create space to speak about these things regularly outside of just this event? I don't want it to be an event. I want this to be a conversation that can be seen regularly. And so that's one of the things I think, in having Black male friends, I want to implore on myself and also implore on them. So
I feel like that's living proof of what we be talking about. Like when you heal yourself, you be healing others around you. Because just by you going to therapy and healing that within yourself, you're able to open up the space for so many people and people that you cared about before. So that's a beautiful thing.
I do have a question for you guys, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me,
so the tables are turning.
Right.
So that I have my, this conversation is broken into 4 topics: access, perception, relationships, and accountability. And in terms of
I like that.
relationships, and I feel like relationships with Black men and pursuing relationships between Black men and Black women, and in both a platonic and romantic sense. What do you guys feel has been the biggest reward for you guys and the biggest caveat for you guys in experiencing, platonic and romantic relationships with Black men?
I'm going through something right now. I'm gonna open it up.
Go ahead. You go first.
The biggest positive thing I would say is I have a lot of guy friends. So I feel like with my guy friends, they're able to have those conversations very openly and honestly with me. And having those guy friends and speaking to them specifically about my relationships and what I'm going through, and they'll talk to me about their girls, it gives me a perspective that I would never be able to get from a girl. It gives me the real, they keep it real with me. And I love all my guy friends, and having that space and being able to talk to guy friends that are not afraid to show their emotions is really what makes me love my guy friends. I think we a lot of times we kind of limit ourselves to, everyone thinks you just have to have a romantic relationship all the time, but just
or
being
that they want something.
I think just having that completely platonic friendship has been a really beautiful thing to me, and it's always I can always count on my niggas.
Come on.
Yeah,
I would say for me, it's the dependable, of them. When I was going through my breakup a few months ago, the ones really helping me, talking me through it was my guy friends, because they know how grimy it gets out here.
Right.
And it's
in these streets.
Right. They can give me the advice that girls can't give me. And even though, it's just different. With girls, it's you can't, F him, all this. But with them, it's bro, one of my friends really sat me down and was all right, how are you feeling? In the future, if this happens, this is what you gotta do. And I was I don't know, I just appreciated that the most. So I would say for platonic relationships, just being able to go to them and the advice that they can give me that no one else can give me. So I agree with Layla on that, for real. And with romantic,
I don't got no good things for the romantic, but my caveats.
I would say the relation, being able to relate as Black to Black.
Brown skin, yeah. Sweet melanin.
Do you guys feel and I feel especially in media, that there's a narrative being pushed between Black men and Black women that is not necessarily positive or nurturing. And do you guys feel like there is one? Like I know we always talk about like kind of like the future debate and like the city girls debate where it's like, oh, I want a man to spin a bag on me, or like like future's like, oh, like I just want to hit. Like,
exactly.
you know what I mean?
I think it's real. Like we see it. Like
Yeah.
it's real for sure.
It's real.
It's people like that, but it's also real people. And I think that what we fail to realize is all the Black men that feel that way want to point the finger at the Black women, like, oh, y'all are gold diggers, y'all are this. And the Black women want to point the finger at the men, like, oh, y'all are broke, y'all are this. But in reality, it's all these like structures and like whatever we are fed in the social media and like the people that blow up, it's very much calculated. Like what music is popular, it's very much calculated. So I don't think we're the ones that are putting this message out. I think it's very strategic. But I also think like you be attracting what you put out there. If you putting out 100 racks on Instagram, I don't think a nice girl that don't care about money is gonna be like, I really like this guy. Like,
man, it's it's like really the like flexing era right now, and
it's sick.
it's like, you know, for some people it's like I can relate. Like, okay, maybe you got it out the mud, and it's like, man, I really worked for this. But then at the same time, it's like you flexing is also a reflection of you. Like, you're flexing because you need validation from other people. You're flexing because you can't just be to yourself and, you know, keep it to yourself. You need everybody to know what you want. Why do you want everybody to know what you want? Why do you want to flex what you have, like, to people who want what you have? Like, I just don't get it. Like, people want what you have. People are jealous of you. People are going to see what you have and start fucking with you because you have what they want. And it's like you're literally putting this out there, and you wonder why your circle is fake. You're wondering why you only have one real friend in this world, because you're not even putting out a genuine self. And I feel like it's a lot of pointing the fingers and like, I don't know, I'm not hating on you if you just want a dude that want to spin that bag on you. Like, I get it. Who wants to come out their pockets? But it's also just like, don't point the finger back and call them broke, like you said. Like, you know, they don't be having it. They just want to show that they have it for you to get you. Like, it's all a facade to me. I don't know.
No, yeah. And I think that's like such the biggest issue with social media is that like none of it is actually real.
None of it.
Let's be so serious. Like, I think
even these dumps are calculated. We're posting photo dumps like, this is my real life. Like, this is how I really live. No, it's calculated. Like, you've been sitting on the photos for 6 months.
I'm a dump warrior.
I'm a dump warrior too, and that's why I'm calling it out. Like, we literally talked about this in class, like the genuineness of social media. Like, even how people who's trying to be real, it's still calculated.
All of it's calculated.
So it's like,
well, and also I think the instant gratification of it too is what really gets us. Is like seeing like these, you know, what people have, you know, and whether it be like material, intangible, or like, you know, like spiritual or like relationships. You know, it's like we always want to perpetuate that, like we have it now. And it's like, bro, it's totally fine that you're working on yourself. Like, it's totally fine that you don't have it right now. It's totally fine that you don't need it right now.
Right.
Like, there's no reason why, you know, someone who's 19, 20 needs to be renting Lamborghinis to flex on Instagram. Like, let's be for real.
Literally,
like,
though.
You know, like, what are you trying to push? What is it about yourself that you don't feel satisfied with?
Right.
And work on that first. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So on that note, I wanted to bring up like the whole alpha male thing, you know, with Andrew Tate. And I think it's a huge thing on social media. And they said like a lot of young boys that are vulnerable to go to the internet, like trying to find a community because they can't talk, like we were just talking about. So they turn to this. Absolutely. And obviously it's very toxic and stuff. Andrew Tate has now gone down for sex trafficking. So how do you feel about the whole alpha male and they be on the podcast too talking crazy,
bro?
The bald bro
podcasts are crazy right now.
They be
and
having all OnlyFans models.
Watching that consistently, you're sick. Respectfully,
the ones with all the OnlyFans models, and they just be yelling at them like, what?
That's the thing too, is that they're like, you know what? When you talk about social media is calculated, like they know what they're doing. They're not bringing on people who are secure in themselves, and then they exploit those insecurities without them like knowing that.
And then be trying to make it represent all women. Like,
no, yeah, and I'm like, why? And that really be the thing with social media is that we over generalize so much. You know, like I hate the debate on all Black men cheat. I hate that. Like I had friends that, full like wholeheartedly believe that.
Oh God.
The friends in question.
I mean, but it's like the thing about it is that like, and let me get to your point in just a second, is that it's like, why do we keep having to have like these like very reductive conversations about like, very general conversations like what should a woman be doing, what should a man be doing in a relationship, but like what can you be doing for your man, what can you be doing for your
Right.
man? Because all
Respectfully,
like, but to your point on Andrew Tate, I actually wrote a paper about the Barbie movie, and how just the discourse surrounding the Barbie movie, like who is that? Joe Coy on. He was like,
oh yeah,
did the Golden Globes. He's like,
uh-huh.
the Barbie movie's about a woman with big tits or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And like just kind of missed the mark of what the movie meant. And not to say like the Barbie movie, in my opinion, was like the impetus for feminism or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I think in terms of discourse surrounding that very like red pill conservative hyper capitalistic those podcast bros like Andrew Tate, I think it's one very despicable, but the way that he delivers his stuff, and also putting like in seamlessly things about male confidence, putting in things validating men, that's something that I think male validation is something that severely lacks amongst Black men, for sure. And I think oftentimes because we see ourselves in such a, like sociopolitically, we see ourselves in such a low position, we have to seek out that validation.
Yeah.
And that's how we get caught into,
I'm about to go
I find Andrew Tate and he's like validating, he's like, oh, you want to have a nice car and you want to have this, you need to work out, you need to do this, you need to get as many pictures as possible, you know what I mean? And I think it's it's deplorable that a lot of boys who feel so unfulfilled in that area. And I've been in that position too, where it's like, I didn't know who I was as a man, and I felt very insecure in myself as a man. And that's something that a lot of men go through, and that's fine. But also it's like, you need to be able to, and this is why I say, like, you need to find things for yourself. You can't go to social media and expect them to have the things for you, because you fall into those traps.
They needed to go back to the old fashioned way. I had Sims.
Man,
if I was feeling down and needed a community, all my characters right here.
Yeah, I do think that, I think it's so deplorable how Andrew Tate and just like these, how like trapped that they have some of these people.
Yeah.
Kids. And so
literally, and young minds at that.
Yeah, I was reading a study and I was saying like, it's like this is kind of like the new wave of like this is like some new Victorian wave where it's like all these kids dress the same, they all speak the same, they all act the same.
Facts.
And it's like, where do you find individuality in yourself? Especially as a man, where it's like you're not oftentimes allotted the space to find yourself. And
this is a huge reason why I want to be a sports psychologist, because as I started hanging out with Black men who are athletes, I started to feel like okay, when I was in high school going through mental health stuff, sports was my outlet every single day. Being able to go to the track and run for hours was my outlet. It was like my release. And I started to think like, that is literally these boys' release from the time they are however old they start sports until they're in college doing it. They probably don't talk about anything, and all of the anger that they feel and the emotions is channeled on the field. And I was just like, and furthermore, the validation and the confidence that they have is from being the best athlete, is from, the rewards they get when they get to that level of they're making money in that sport. They're quote unquote the best. They're at the highest level. And I just feel like that is a huge thing with Black men, like the validation that they seek off of materialistic items being in their possession.
Yeah.
Like, and it's sad to me. That's why designer brands are their highest market right now, damn near, is Black people, because we're buying it up the most because we want to flex that we're at that level of, status and have money like that. But like, that's not the way to go about it. Like, real validation, real confidence in yourself. What are you doing for yourself? Absolutely. What do you like to do as an individual? Just like you were saying. And that's been like a huge thing I've been thinking about also with Black men. Is just like, they find that one thing they're good at and they just run with it. Absolutely. And it's like,
or not good at.
Right. but they just run with it, and it's like, please, bro.
But
Please.
yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, the whole relationship thing as well, because it's like Black men only get validation, whether it's female or male, like when they're highly successful and they're very wealthy, and even like for doing
that too,
stuff that is like, is this really what we're promoting right now? But like the things that Black male get validation for is very like crazy. And I feel like even like you were just saying, like Black men in higher education, like that's rarely something that we'll see on our timeline or that is pushed like on Black Twitter. Like I feel like we don't show enough love to Black men that are doing like good stuff in the community or that are like, I don't know,
and it's just a cycle of like, just how you said, like they get the validation from women when they flex, when they post that stuff. So it's just a cycle. Like they're seeing girls want men who have money, have this, and then they're just doing that, getting the validation that they want from people, and it's just like a cycle. Like we all got to do better. Like we all got to really find what we want in a person, because money
is not it.
Yeah,
it just never will be.
Yeah,
and
that's
also,
not enough to validate yourself.
Yeah, money too is just like like the feeling of having things runs out so quickly, and it's like I feel like that's how we get trapped in these like really terrible relationships. Is that like we go for the people to fulfill something in us, and whether that be like, oh, my man can buy me Masters every night for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Big
like, like that big, but like I mean, me too. Like I would love for someone to buy me Masters every day. But like, it's also a matter of like, or women being like, oh, I can find someone who can get me this and give me that and buy me whatever I want. Or a man being like, I want the baddest woman on the block, this, that, and the third. And it's like perpetuating these ideas where it's like, you want something because they have it and that they can give it to you. And I think that's so that's like also, I think in terms of just like being in the Black community and pursuing relationships, that's something that's so heavily leaned on.
Yeah.
And it really does suck too. Because it's like,
it is. It's pressure on yourself. Yeah.
And there's shaming culture in the Black community is so big. It's so big. Like,
facts. We are the only community I truly feel like that tears each other down. And it's so frustrating.
Like bad.
It's so frustrating. We are the only ones really killing each other like that. And I hate that for us. Like, damn, do you see how far we've gotten in America? And now, like, yes, there's always oppression. There's always racism. But now I'm starting to feel like we are the ones, like, holding us back from our true potential at this point. Like, we have the power to go beyond what, the bars that white people have set for us. But we're holding each other back. And it's just like, child, like, get out your head.
We can so do better. And I think it's so important for us to do better. And like, I'm going to say it, niggas need to go to therapy. What's niggas need therapy?
Yes, my sweatshirt. Period.
Like, I've been on the search for that hoodie just now.
I'm going to send it to you. Every nigga deserves therapy.
I follow them, but they just haven't put it yet. So you see yours missing, and you see me wearing it. Mind your business.
Period. So. Nah, but for real, I feel like therapy is just something we need to change the stigma on, because it's not about looking weak. It's about healing yourself so that you can heal generations after you. And I feel like it's just the perception and perspective people need to change. And also I just think a lot of people feel like, what can that person really do for me? And I get it, but you never know what saying it out loud would do for you. Right. Bottling it up your whole life is like, yeah, like no one can help me, because you're so used to that. But saying it out loud can really get you far.
And what's so funny about that is when I started therapy, there would be like, when you talk about vocalizing those emotions, I would cry after like every single therapy session I had in the very beginning, just because I felt so, not in a bad way, like I felt so seen and I felt so heard, and I just felt so, again, validated in a way that wasn't about like what I had and what I, could do for someone, but it was a matter of like, I'm glad, like, I'm happy that you said that.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you were able to vocalize that in a way that felt right for you, and being able to say something that is hard for you to say and hard for you to rehash, because that's I think is one of the big fears about Black men going to therapy, is that having to rehash, and honestly for anyone, having to rehash trauma and having to rehash things that you need to take accountability for. And like, accountability is not easy. Like it's not easy, and it's so hard. But you become a better person because of it. And I think it's so important just to say like, look, I'm proud of you for just saying, you know, how you felt.
Yeah.
Reassurance
Even-
is huge.
Exactly. Or just saying like, I'm glad that you're here. Like for anybody, you know, anybody who comes to this event next week is like, I'm just glad that you're there. I don't care if you say something or not. I'm just glad you're here. You know what I mean? So
showing up is
That's
the
so
hardest step.
exactly.
So last question of the day is, what would you tell your younger self about mental health if you could?
You know, go first. So let me think about it.
I was about to say something crazy. I'm like, seek help immediately.
Intrusive thought.
But
I think I would tell myself it's okay to feel.
mm,
Because it took me up until like I think my junior or senior year of high school to like let myself feel actual emotions other than like mad,
Yeah.
sad, happy.
that's what I would say.
That's
Why
what
are
I
you so
do.
mad?
I do in therapy. It's like we have like an emotion. And that's like
Yes,
sad
mine
and happy,
too.
or like it's like little, like it's like kind of like a rainbow color one.
Yes, and she always be like, when I start, how are you doing? I can't say good. I have
Exactly,
to like give a real
exactly. I'm like,
emotion and
okay,
look
in
at the
terms of-
damn wheel.
in terms of an emotion wheel, I'm like, okay, I feel that.
Right.
I think what I would tell my younger self is that, you know, I think mental health and speaking about mental health candidly is maintenance. In the same way that, you know, I drank black coffee to be healthy, or I drank real nigga shit. Or, you know, the same reason why I eat healthy, or the same way why I work out. You know, like there's ways that you can work out your mind, and that's what that really is what
I
it
like
is for me.
that.
Is like, think of therapy like thinking of a hobby. You do it to decompress.
Yes.
You do it to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And you do it for yourself to feel better.
Yes.
And it makes you feel good, like you were saying, like, you know, going to the track was your way of decompressing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what therapy is that, like, you know, you do it regularly, or even just opening up space regularly for yourself to speak about it, journal about it, you know, speak, you know, just say it into, you know, the ether. But it's all of its maintenance, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's just something that you need to do to take care of yourself. So
yeah,
that's
period. I like that. And I second that motion heavily. But that was a really good episode, and I'm glad that you came on here because I'm glad that you brought up therapy because
I feel like we haven't talked about it in a while.
Facts. But thank y'all for tuning in. Stay tuned for all of our mental health stuff that we're going to be doing in May, and a 10 miles event and the ones after that, period.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for watching.
Thank you.